All right, here we go. We're going to talk about the router table and the router. As you start to work on your stool project, one of the things we're going to start talking a little bit about is the seat, right? So I'm going to come back here and we're going to talk about the router table, because just like the sanding machine, there are a couple of things that you have to know about the router table and direction before you use it. So I'm going to start by taking care of my personal safety rules. I'm going to make sure my ID is taken off, my sleeves are rolled up, excuse me, my safety glasses are on, we're ready to go. The router table is actually a router, one of these guys, mounted up underneath the table. A router is an actual portable tool, meaning we can actually move this around. What we have on here is what we call a roundover bit. So there's a ball bearing here and we have a rounded edge. And so we're going to use that on our stool because we want to make sure that when we sit down, that the back of our legs don't get splinters on this edge, and it's going to be much easier on our back of our legs and stuff if this is rounded off. So that bit here is mounted up underneath this table. The table allows it to become more stationary, so not be able to move around, and allows us to operate it a little bit easier. We do have a guard on it, so the guard is there to protect us, to keep our fingers away. We do have to understand that the cutter is on the bottom, so it's actually going to be cutting here, so we're not cutting something from the top. I do have some arrows here. It says feed board in this direction only, because just like all of the tools that we talk about, we have to have some control. And if we don't provide control, then there's a good chance this thing is going to move all over the place. For example, if we went in the opposite direction like this, and the rotation of the machine is going this way, as soon as it touches it, it's just going to grab it and throw it off the table. We want to go this way, meaning the rotation of the cutter is going this way, and we're feeding the board in, so as it's getting, it's actually eating at it, and as we're pushing it into, it's going to drive and eat that off. What we're going to do is actually round over this edge. So I'm going to, before I even turn it on, I'm going to make sure it's completely back against the fence. The machine's already set up for the height, all right, so it's not going to cut in too deep, and then the depth this way, so it's not going to cut too far into the board. Because it has this little ball bearing on it, like we showed you here, it's almost, all right, impossible to do this wrong, really, because that ball bearing is going to stop the wood from going any further, and then it's going to just cut the edge on it. So what we're trying to do is cut this rounded edge here on the end. So I'm going to push the board all the way to the back. We have an on and off switch up here in the front. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on here. Push it up against the fence. Make sure my hands are not near the cutting surface. I'm going to keep it pushed against the fence as I go across. So if you can see this, right, what we have is this rounded edge. Now, here's where it gets tricky. This is where students will often screw up, is we cut this like this, right? So it cut across the bottom here. What students want to do is they get done cutting it and then they flip it over and then they go this way and it cuts the wrong side or the opposite side on this side. So we want to keep the board down like this, all right? So I'm going to do the same thing on this side now. I'm going to do the same operation, push it up tight against the fence. Now we have the two ends rounded or routed, okay? And now in our stool, because we have a certain application, we're only going to do one other side, because this other side's going to butt up to the other piece, and then it will kind of create that whole base or the seat of our stool. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it down like this, all right? And I'm going to then push it up next to the table here. And you'll see I have the two end pieces down here. So I have them facing down, I have it pushed tight against the fence. I'm going to turn it back on. Now you can see I have the edges rounded on 3 of my sides, which is what I'm trying to accomplish with this. So again, make sure you understand that when you are using the bandsaw, So again, the final pointers I want you to make when you're using the router table is make sure we're only going in this direction. Make sure we're not flipping the boards back and forth. The cutting surface is actually on the bottom. So we always have the cutting part that we're cutting here. So we get in the habit of flipping it over back and forth on this particular portion of the project. And then just note that we always are making sure that it's tight against the fence, because if we move it off the fence, it won't provide that cutting. So our video today is sponsored by Bubbly. If you've ever tried one of these, don't. It's 0 calories for a reason, because it has 0 flavor. So if you want to feel good about yourself, then drink a Bubbly.